All right, so imagine that you did a good job sculpting and you cleaned it all up. I clearly did not. What we want to do is we want to retopologize it because this geometry obviously is in a post state, so that's not going to work entirely. But the geometry is going to be hard to sculpt on. And if you were actually going to use this for production, the geometry as it is just not. This is not usable. It's both very too dense. It's too dense and it's tessellated. It's all tris, which is fine for a sculpture, but it's not very good for what we want to do. All right, so we want to retopologize it. So what we're going to do is go to the modeling tab, and then select the model, right click over top of it, and just go duplicate objects, and then just click, and that way it's in the same spot. I'm going to take the original one, the one that just says cone here or whatever yours says, and I'm just going to turn that off. You'll see the other one's still here. They're right on top of each other. Okay. If for some reason when you go to duplicate it, duplicate objects, you'll see that starts to move over. Just right click and it'll be back to where it was. So if you click, it's going to go wherever your cursor currently is. Okay, so now we have this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this one and we're going to retopologize it. All right, so we're actually going to do that back in sculpting again. I just need to duplicate it by going into the modeling tab. Come on, sculpting. Okay, so make sure we got this guy selected. Okay, good. So we have this sculpture. What I want to do is remesh this. Okay, so to do that, we're going to go down here. And we're going to go to remesh. And then you have options as far as the voxel size is concerned. So what might make sense is I'm going to click. If I click on this, it's going to sample whatever the resolution is. So watch. If I go into like here, it's going to show 0.1. Let's see. If I click here, maybe it takes it as a whole. I don't know. So what we want to do is we want to change the size of this. What I kept doing, and you're gonna see it's very slow. What I kept doing is I just kept changing, leave adaptivity at 0. I kept taking this and just trying different numbers. I think I ended up at 2.5 because you're gonna find this 0.1 is too dense. This is a pretty large object and it's also very dense. So I'm gonna try 2.5 to start with. Even entering that number, takes a half a second. Okay. And then what we want to do is let me see. Select. Hang on. Oh, I got to turn Dino Topo off, I think is what the problem is. Let's click back on this guy. Okay. Make sure you turn Dino Topo off and then just hit remesh. And it's going to take half a second. And there you go. Okay. So now you'll see that it's about this density, which is about the number that I want. I feel like this is acceptable. Right. So that's about an okay. And you can see it's much more responsive when I'm moving around. It's a lot better. Okay. However, you'll notice that I lost basically all of my detail, which kind of stinks. Okay. So what I would suggest is just keep trying to play with the voxel size until it makes a size that makes sense for you. With the 3D scan that I have, 2.5 made sense. So probably roughly that looks something like this. I could show you different numbers, but it's just going to make it that these quads are larger or smaller depending on that size. Okay. Now that being said, you'll notice that we basically lost all of our resolution, all of our details, and I'd like to have those back. So what we're going to do is I think I can do it in here, but I'm going to do it in modeling just because it's a little bit easier for me. I'm going to make sure I'm in object mode. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use some modifiers. So I'm going to go to modifiers. We're going to hit add modifier, and we're going to do multi-resolution. Okay. Now what that does is it allows us to basically subdivide the model. If you've ever used like ZBrush or Mudbox or any other program, it's like a sculpting program, a lot of the ways that those work are by subdividing the model. So I'm just going to subdivide this a bunch of times. So I'll hit subdivide. So you can see it's just making it smoother and smoother. There's also, just so you are aware, there's another one called, right here, add modifier. There's another one called subdivision surface. And that kind of looks like it does the same thing. But we don't want to use that one because this one allows us to have these. And then we can actually we can actually apply the shape data from the other object onto this one. Okay. So what we're going to do is I want to add another modifier. And this one we're going to do is shrink wrap. Okay. Now what shrink wrap does is it basically tries to wrap one object around another object. And in this case, I want my target to be my original sculpt, which is this one up here. So I'm going to hit this little icon, and then I'm just going to click on this. And then you're going to see, boom. What it does is it's trying to stick to this model now. So if you're used to Maya, it would be almost like live surface. but a little bit different because it actually physically sucks it in and into it. You can see there's going to be some errors and stuff that are going to occur. There's probably some ways to make that a little bit better. Just have the model modeled a little bit differently, maybe in like T-pose. I just sculpt this dude. I didn't really, take that other stuff into account. But what I do want you to notice is that I do still have my wireframe is still the clean one, but now it's just subdivided and it's using that model underneath. Okay. Now the problem with doing this though, if we were trying to sculpt on this at this point, let's turn that back off, is that it's not going to, we can't really sculpt on it because it's still trying to stick to the other thing. Like I can sculpt on it all I want, but this is going to be stuck on the, basically it's only going to ever stick to this. Like I can sculpt all I want, but it's not going to change the surface because this modifier is attaching it. But the nice thing is we can actually apply this. So we hit this little arrow, and you could do this with any modifier. Like I go up to this one, I can hit apply. When I hit apply, it would just be whatever resolution it currently is. That's what it's going to be. But with this one, I can hit apply, and what that's going to do is it's actually going to apply it to this multi-res modifier. And so when I go to subdivide or go up or down my layers, it's actually in the sculpt now. So it's actually part of like its resolution or its like shapes. So that's really cool. So now we actually don't need this one anymore. You can get rid of the original one, or you can keep it if it makes you feel good. But now if I go back to sculpting, you see I have my good resolution. I can still go to my modifiers, and I can lower this if I want and sculpt at a lower level to make it a little bit easier to sculpt with. Oh, sorry, I got to do it here. This is the local viewport. I can sculpt it at the lower res if I want to like make more broader, easier strokes and stuff. So you can see I can do that a lot quicker and easier. Or I can have it at that higher resolution, right? And I would even go up higher. I only went to 3. Let's go here, and I'm gonna turn the wireframe off. I can go with that higher resolution. And now, like if you watch when I sculpt, see how fast and responsive that is? It's way faster, right? Even if I use like, let's say the crease, make sure again that you have Dino Topo off. Let's go back to the test the settings here. But even the crease, see how much better that works now? Now, the only thing is, it is going to stretch because we're not making geometry. So if you want to do big things, let's say put horns or spikes or something that's going to significantly change the form, you're going to want to make sure you do that when you were doing the Dynamesh, okay? But now I can go through and smooth out things, and the results of the sculpt are actually going to be a little bit better. Now, it is going to screw up some stuff, and you're going to have to just kind of work around that. But it's not a bad result, okay? So basically, you're just going to go through now and just kind of sculpt more onto it so that you get a nicer looking model.